The Black Sea region is strategically critical to broader transatlantic stability. It is where Russia, Europe, the Middle East, the Balkans, and the Caucasus come together. And it's also the locus of the Kremlin's tests against alliance credibility and resolve, which have escalated over the last 2 decades in the conventional and non-conventional domain. Russia sees the Black Sea region as a core area where it can achieve its foreign policy objectives. The first one being desire to undermine NATO by pressuring Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova at the same time, countries that Russia sees as its sphere of influence and where it has incited so-called frozen conflicts or gray zones. Crimea, which Russia seized illegally in 2014, is key for these efforts. Today, the Russian efforts to militarize Crimea have turned the peninsula into an unsinkable aircraft carrier, allowing the Kremlin to build capabilities and project power far, far beyond the Black Sea region. Russia also retains leverage over Ukraine by blocking access to key ports and undermining the freedom of navigation. It's important to note that just this week, some 20 warships and auxiliary Russian vessels were involved in the latest Russian exercises to intimidate NATO partners and allies. The Black Sea is, of course, a testing ground for Russia's full-spectrum warfare, most notably in the cyber and information domain. And we have to understand that Russia's military aggression always occurs in concert with asymmetric tactics. Disinformation in particular accompanies Russian military aggression, as we just saw this summer with the incident with HMS Defender. Such campaigns produce a fog of war environment where the risk of direct conflict is increasingly likely, and we are ill-prepared to deal with this kind of hybrid warfare. It must be said that while Russia has established itself as the dominant power in the region, the Kremlin's capabilities are limited, and we still have time and must turn back the tide with strategic U.S. leadership and commitment to ensure that the Black Sea does not become a permanent security black hole. We must respond to Russian hybrid threats while simultaneously building long-term stability and security in the region. To do so, I elaborate quite a few recommendations in my written testimony. I will highlight just 3 buckets here. First, such a strategy for U.S. leadership in the Black Sea must see resilience, both in terms of economic and democratic resilience, and invest with a long view towards the region. What we can do in that regard is support independent media, investigative journalist groups, and media literacy education across the entire Black Sea region. These kinds of groups, the independent media sphere in particular, is the best bulwark to protect against Russian disinformation. To that end, with our limited resources, and we have to admit that we have a bandwidth issue in the United States and a priority issue, but we can get the most bang out of our buck if we prioritize Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia, the non-NATO, non-EU member states that require the most support and have the fewest access to those resources. We must encourage economic investment as a tool for broader regional cooperation and cohesion by first delivering on the U.S. commitment to the 3 Cs initiative, which was proposed under the last administration, the $1 billion commitment. And we must provide alternatives to Chinese investment, which is actively playing a role to undermine regional cohesion, and particularly in the telecom and broader IT infrastructure. For that, the 2021 Transatlantic Telecommunications Security Act is key. Number 2, we have to work with regional allies to establish a dialogue around a shared understanding of Black Sea security. This 6+1 dialogue, including Bulgaria, Georgia, and Moldova, has to be a part of it as well. Romania, Turkey, and Ukraine, and the United States can align on a shared vision for the region and engage Turkey. While Turkey has been a very challenging ally, in the Black Sea is an area where Turkey is at odds with Russia, and we should use that to continue to engage Turkey and move beyond quarrels over S-400 and F-35. Lastly, we have to emphasize a strategy that includes responding to non-conventional threats in the cyber and information domains. In this regard, we should consider opening an operational hub in the region. Romania is the most natural partner and ally for this, to coordinate NATO and EU efforts in the hybrid domain, particularly in cyber operations and Russian disinformation efforts. Undoubtedly, limited U.S. resources and bandwidth will mean a greater role for U.S. allies in the region, particularly NATO and the European Union. The U.S. will have to do more with less. But the Black Sea is where relatively limited resources can make a profound difference for long-term allied resilience and U.S. global leadership. Thank you.